Hello, this is Anomaly. Thank you so much for joining me on the $5 Journey YouTube channel. Check me out on Twitter, on Facebook, and you can always contact me on Outlook as well. I will make sure that I put my contact information in the caption below. Today, we're going to talk about 3 things to boost your finances. Okay, remember the $5 Journey, it is definitely about progressing, right? Financially progressing, going down that journey, $5 at a time. It is not necessarily a sprint, but it's, a nice journey where you got to pace yourself. When you can go fast, go fast. When you need to kind of take it easy, go easy. But as long as you're continuing to go, as long as you're continuing to progress, right? So hopefully this will help you guys out. 3 things to boost your finances. First thing is getting out of bad debt. Okay, what do I mean by bad debt? Okay, I did a video on this. Hopefully I'll be able to remember and be able to post it in the caption below. But what bad debt is actually probably, let me tell you what it is, and then I'll give you an example, okay? And then I'll give you an example of good debt. Okay, what bad debt it is? Bad debt is any debt that you have where you have to pay interest on money borrowed or loaned or whatever. You have to pay interest on whatever money that you've used, whether it's a car note or a credit card or even a mortgage or something like that. And it pulls away from your resources. It pulls away from your assets or from your financial worth. Okay, so that's bad debt. An example of bad debt would be if you, let's say you wanted to go and buy a car that was going to be, say, $70,000, right? And I have no idea what the car payment would be, but let's say it's like $800 a month, okay? Based off of whatever down payment you put down and everything. So you go buy the car at $70,000 a month. Once you pull off the lot, it's worth maybe anywhere from 30 to 50% what the initial value was that you bought it for. So there's a huge price decrease right there, right, of worth. And then on top of that, you're paying every month. You're paying $800 a month. It's pulling from one of your streams of cash flow or from your job or whatever, wherever you get your money from, right? It's pulling every month. It's not adding any sort of value, but it's kind of a drain on you. So that's a liability. That's considered bad debt. Now, you can still use the same car to be good debt. So if you had the same car, $70,000, you were making your $800 a month payment, but that car was being used in, say, you had your own business, running a car service or something like that. And that car was being used, even though you were paying $800 a month, right, on the note, on the finance charge or the lease charges, right? You are, let's say you're making $6,000 a month off of that vehicle. Well, then it is no longer bad debt. It's actually good debt. It's no longer a liability, but an asset. It no longer drains from your resources, but adds value to your resources, adds to your resources. Okay, so one of the things that you want to do to, out of 3 things to boost your finances, is get out of bad debt, all right? That could be credit card debt, student loans. It could be, like I said, mortgage. Sometimes people say, oh, well, my house is an asset. Well, if your house is not, if your house is basically not being rented out or not bringing in extra income for you, then that's considered bad debt. Because you're paying out every month. It is not adding any value to you. Yeah, sure, maybe you get a certain sense of pride added to you or something like that. Value in, I guess, in that kind of sense. My better judgment says not to use material possessions as ways to add value to yourself. So anyways, that's a video for another time. All right, but yeah, a house can be bad debt. All right, if you're not bringing in, if it's not adding to your resources, if it's not adding to your overall income every month, your cash flow, then a house can be considered bad debt. Same thing with credit cards, same thing with a car note, same thing with student loans. do your best to get out of bad debt. Now, there's all kinds of experts out on the internet, YouTube, whatever, who can help you out with getting out of bad debt. They actually have really practical programs available, so I encourage you to check out those kinds of people. I don't, sometimes with those get out of debt gurus, they consider all debt bad debt. I disagree with that, as I showed you in that example with the car, because if you're paying $800 a month for a car payment, but that $800 a month is bringing you in $6,000 a month or $7,000 a month in extra cash flow, well, it's, I think that's worth it. I think that's a worthwhile investment to pay. I'm paying out $800, and then in return I'm getting back $6,000 or $7,000 or $8,000. I'm with that. I'd rather do that. So that's the first thing. Get out of bad debt. Second thing is, don't increase your spending with your pay increase. Okay, so a lot of times what we do is we'll get a raise, or we'll follow some of the strategies in the $5 journey. We'll get that side hustle. We'll use our knowledge of whatever industry to maybe build our own business or something like that. And let's say you were making $50,000 a year, and now you've done whatever you're doing. You're now making an additional $20,000 a year, right? What happens is, a tendency for a lot of people that I've come across is that what they do is, when they start making that extra $20,000 a year, well, their expenses increases by $20,000 also. So, or maybe more, and it's not, their expenses are not increasing because there's an actual need. Their expenses are increasing because, whereas they were, bringing their lunch to work, now they're eating out every day, or where they were driving a car that was, had a car payment of $150 a month. Now they decided to upgrade, right? And they want to get the newest version of the vehicle, of a vehicle, right? Now their car payments, instead of being $200 a month, now it's like $800 a month, right? And that is the same example that I just used. So you want to make sure that, when you do those strategies that's talked about in the $5 Journey, the book, that you keep your expenses as much as you can. Keep your expenses the same, okay? Try as best as possible to keep them the same. All right, you want to make sure that that your spending doesn't increase with that increase in pay. All right, third thing, the last thing, is protect what comes in. Protect what comes in. Now, certain erosions can happen, right? When you increase your cash flow, right? You increase the amount of money that comes in, or even the money that you have in already, right? Let's say you have a few hundred or a few $1,000 in the bank account. Maybe you have like, $20,000 in the bank account, maybe more. I don't know. Well, the first kind of erosion is in inflation, right? And I did a video on inflation where, basically inflation is probably about 3% at this point. And so if you have $100 in the bank this year, by next year at 3% inflation, that $100 is only going to be worth $97 because of the 3% inflation. So it subtracts 3% off of whatever your money is worth at that particular time. Okay, and that happens year after year. So every year, that money that you have in there is in a regular bank account is losing value every year. What you want to do is you want to try to put that in something, maybe an annuity, maybe in a bond, maybe CD, something that's going to give you an interest rate above inflation. All right, something above inflation. Now you can do that. You can invest in the stock market, of course. There's, I've done a couple of videos on this, stock market, mutual funds, those kinds of things. Right now, I'm not sure when you guys are watching this, but let's see, we're in February of 2018. There's been a couple of situations as far as the stock market crashing and stuff like that. So, maybe your confidence is a little wavering as far as stock goes. And again, that's a video for another time. But what I will say is a tendency for stock markets, for mutual funds, all those kinds of things, is there's a crash, but there's eventually a recovery, and then there's a building back up, right? And now you don't lose those shares of the mutual fund or ETFs or stock or whatever. You still have those shares. And then if you're consistent, you're buying those shares, even though the stock market has crashed, but you're buying them at a lower price. So eventually when the stock market comes back up, you still have all those shares. And now that you bought them at a lower price, the worth of the shares skyrockets, back up with the market recovery. Okay, so anyways, that's another issue, like I said. But you want to try to protect what comes in, what kind of money you do come in. You want to make sure that you protect that, against inflation. You want to make sure you protect it against extra taxes. So there's certain tax havens that you can actually access that the normal person can. I want to advise you guys, get yourself an accountant. H&R Block and Jackson Hewitt and all that stuff, it's cool. I'm definitely not knocking it. I've used those things in the past. But getting a very experienced tax professional is probably your best bet, all right? Getting somebody who's a CPA, is probably your best bet as far as being able to really help protect what comes in. Especially once you start to grow, you want to, if you're purchasing real estate, you're starting your businesses, you're getting additional streams of cash flow, coming in, it will get taxed, okay? And if you don't have a professional person advocating on your behalf, an accountant, a CPA, then, there can be an erosion that happens to your money because, instead of, paying 20% tax on, $100,000, now maybe you're paying 20% tax on $300,000 or something along those lines. So there's certain ways to protect what comes in, so that way you'll have more. All right, so these are the 3 things to boost your finances. All right, so getting out of bad debt, right? We explained that. Don't increase your spending, right? It's not a time to go out and buy like the latest shoes or the latest designer clothes, or upgrade like 5 levels up on your automobile or whatever, to get rid of the apartment that you're staying in and buy like a fancy mansion or something like that. This is not the time for that. Make sure that, with increased spend, I'm not saying that you can't do any of that stuff, but the tendency is to overdo it, so you want to try to kind of, be a little bit moderate as far as your spending, when it comes to an increase in pay. All right. And then also protect what comes in. All right. You can do that based off of getting a financial vehicle that will keep the money that you come in safe from inflation. And then also getting a tax professional to really take a look at your finances, what's coming in, what are the projections, where do you want to go with everything, and then working accordingly. Also not only with an accountant, but also a financial advisor as well. I definitely have some that I can recommend. I have a financial advisor that I use frequently. He's really cool. I just shoot him a text message, and we talk about stuff. So it's he's really good. I can always refer him. I've actually referred a lot of people to him. He's a very happy man, and I do not get paid extra, okay, for me referring the accountant or me referring the financial advisor. I'm just really trying to help you guys to increase your finances, to progress financially, and to so we can all take this journey $5 at a time, right? All right, so thanks again for tuning in to the YouTube channel. Check me out, on all those different venues: Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, of course, and Outlook. All right, thanks. Take care.